I grow plants for aesthetic reasons. I like to decorate my house with beautiful statement pieces and treat all of my plants like artworks. And in today's video, I just want to show you 10 super nice plants. Growing plants isn't like a linear trajectory and plants are just getting nicer and nicer and larger. First of all, I'm experiencing 4 seasons over here in Sydney, so you know, not every plant likes every season equally. Sometimes there's some pest issues or some neglect from my side, or sometimes something goes wrong without even really knowing what happened. Bottom line is they're all living organisms, so they'll never look perfect, and it definitely won't look perfect for forever, right? Sometimes a plant has like a really nice moment and then over time it kind of starts deteriorating a little bit, then comes back and so on. In today's video I really just want to show you 10 plants that are looking really nice at the moment, so that I kind of captured it. For lack of better terms, I just want to show them off. So let's go. First one, and if you've been following my channel for a while, you are probably surprised to see this plant on here because historically I've had the worst time with Alocasia Frydek. But it is finally growing really well because I tried something new. And yeah, I'm just absolutely loving the variegation on this, the really dark leaves, the velvet. 10 out of 10 now that it's growing nicely for me, but you know, I don't have the best track record with Alocasias, so I really just want to capture its beauty because who knows what's going to happen next. However, I am planning on doing a full video of this plant and my new method of growing it in this glass vase, which should be ready pretty soon as well, so stay tuned. On that note, make sure you hit subscribe so you know when I upload a new video. You might even think that you are subscribed, but turns out you're not, so this is your opportunity to check. Also make sure to hit that bell notification and give the video a thumbs up. But let's move on to the second plant. This is my Philodendron patriciae. It is living its best life despite recently having moved out of the IKEA cabinet, and it's given me this beautiful leaf recently, and it is now unfurling a brand new leaf over here. It looks like this could be a big one, so very happy with that. It is a very different philodendron to most of the philodendron that I grow. I mean, you see it behind me. I like the really big velvet philos on moss poles. This one is on a moss pole, but it is quite a short moss pole because it doesn't actually climb that fast. In general, I would say it doesn't grow super fast either, so it's a really low maintenance plant in my opinion actually, but I really enjoy this droopy, like elongated leaf, like kind of like a strappy leaf, you know. I like that in Anthuriums as well, but I kind of like how this is a philodendron and it has the nice ruffles on the leaves and how it still climbs a little bit, because I really enjoy growing climbers, but because it grows so slowly I don't really have to do many extensions and so on. So it has been a really easy, low effort but rewarding journey with this plant, and I think it's just looking really nice. Next up and last one for this room is my Monstera obliqua. It is almost 1 year old now. Well, 1 year ago I purchased it, and it's growing really nicely in that here. There are actually 3 plants on here. Only one has really reached the top and is giving me these really beautiful leaves over here. So really happy with the growth, but very similar to the patriciae as well. It has been so little effort, right? I didn't have to, I put it on a pole pretty early on in its journey, I think straight away actually, because they came rooted. So I put it on a moss pole like on day 2 of having it, and ever since then it's just hanging in the IKEA cabinet, and I spray a little bit of water at the top and to keep it moist. But that's it. Very low effort, but I think a really nice reward. Also, it is a plant that stays kind of small, so it's a great plant for small spaces like an IKEA cabinet, or if you don't have an entire room to dedicate to all of your ginormous plants. So I really want to give this plant a little moment in this video, but also stay tuned for a full plant spotlight on this plant. And that's actually it for the plants in this room. Let's move through, but I want to give a quick shout out to my entire wall of aroids behind me. In general, it's looking pretty good. However, I've had some spider mite issues in this room over the last few weeks. So I have a little bit of damage on some of these leaves that I'm not super happy with, but that is also life. But you know, I always show you my large plants on moss poles. I always talk about my velvet philodendron. So I thought for today's video, let's keep it to some other plants, you know. Righty, next up, and I just want to show you where they all live, but it's really hard to film here. The Oxalis currently lives here in an east-facing window. Let me take it out. This is my Oxalis triangularis, but in today's video we're not actually talking about this one because this one makes the list every single time. Well, can't blame me, it is looking good. Today I actually want to talk about this one, a little offshoot. This one is making the list because it's kind of special, and actually it's almost doing better than the mother plant. Let me give you a little bit of background. I gave my mother plant a huge reset at the beginning of spring this year. So I took it out of its pot, I completely stripped all of the, is it corms? Yes, I stripped all of the corms, no, not corms, tubers, I think tubers. Yeah, pretty sure it's tubers. Oh, maybe it's corm. I will stick with corms. Alright, so I separated out all the corms and then gave it fresh medium. And while separating out the corms, I kind of took the leftover soil and I just chucked it in my garden bed. And of course there were teeny tiny bits of corms left, so eventually I started seeing little oxalis popping up in my garden bed. And before you come for me, I know it's a weed and it's gonna take over. It's in the garden bed, it's contained, and it's been there all season long. And to be honest, the gardenia is overgrowing the oxalis to the extent that the oxalis is actually dying out there. So no, it's not gonna invade my whole garden. Anyway, my housemate then put on a little party for some of her friends, and they did something really cute. They painted a little pot, and they also put some good manifestations or like wishes for the upcoming year, and they put it on a little piece of paper. And she then asked me whether I would have a suitable plant to plant in that pot with all of their well wishes that can then kind of grow out of their wishes, right? So I thought it was a really cute idea, and I wanted to have a plant that when I first pot it up doesn't look like anything, and then you can slowly start it seeing coming out of the soil, basically out of where the well wishes are. So I went to the garden and dug out a few of these baby corms, and they were honestly like teeny tiny, tinier than my pinky fingernail, and I popped them in here. And initially it was completely just just dirt, and then slowly we started seeing more and more little oxalis coming out, and then even heaps and heaps of flowers. So this has only really probably taken 2 months or so to grow. And of course, because there were teeny tiny corms and they're in a teeny tiny pot, there's only a limit to how lush this can get. But I actually really enjoyed this cute look, and I like how compact it is. Of course I like my mother plant, you know, really big and lots of volume and lots of them, and it's definitely a showstopper. But I really appreciate this little display for maybe a smaller windowsill or like a smaller place in your house. Now this has also taught me something. I had my big mother plant in a north-facing window because when I first potted it back up at the beginning of spring, I wanted to give it as much light as possible. And of course, light moves throughout the year. So while in spring, the sun is coming quite deep into my north-facing room. Keep in mind, I'm in the southern hemisphere, so opposite. As we're approaching the middle of summer, I pretty much get no more direct sun coming into my window because the sun is just right up in the sky, kind of like, you know, not casting sun into the room, but just straight down. So I was actually getting less light as we're approaching summer. Yes, more sunlight hours, but not enough light intensity. And oxalis, despite looking quite finicky, actually love a lot of light. This one, however, because I didn't have more room for it, I just put next to my Thai constellation over there in the east-facing window, and it started absolutely outperforming my mother plant despite being potted up much later and with much smaller corms, which made me then move my mother plant into the same window, and she's been thriving like never before. I wasn't planning on doing an experiment as a result of it, but it worked out, right? I learned something new about this plant, or I wouldn't say I learned something new. I knew it enjoys really high light, but I was kind of just not acting on the light exposure changing throughout the year, which was a good reminder that actually I do need to continuously move my plants around, specifically the ones that rely on natural light as the light changes, or you just won't optimize the growth, which is also perfectly fine. Anyway, I think I've spoken enough about this teeny tiny plant, but I just really enjoy it. It brings me so much joy to look at this plant, and I have to water it every 2 or 3 days because it's in such a small pot. So it's bringing me a lot of joy, actually more joy than my mother plant at the moment. That's why I wanted to share it. Alrighty, next up we've got my Dioscorea discolor, and I've done a full video on this plant and its whole setup. It is unique in the sense that it grows so fast. This grows within just 1 season, and then over winter it will go dormant, will just be a pot full of dirt, and then in spring it comes back and grows extremely fast. It has now been, I think, 4 months or so of growing. It's definitely lusher than when I first released the video, but it is very much contained by the grow light, right? Where the grow light shines, the plant grows. Where the grow light doesn't shine, the plant doesn't grow. So it definitely likes high light, but it has some of the most amazing features. It is really beautiful, dark, almost velvetish leaves. It has really beautiful red backs. Somebody left a comment saying it looks like like a bird poop plant, right? Like, because each leaf has like a little silver veining in the middle, which looks like a little bit like bird poop, apparently. But yeah, it is just one of my all-time favorite plants, actually, because it makes such a dramatic comeback every spring, and it's just such a joy to watch. I always say that growing plants for me is all about the journey, as I mentioned in the intro, right? Like, if it was about an end result, it might be that you never achieve the end result, or that you achieve the end result but then the end result deteriorates within 2 weeks because it has spider mites, right? So there is no end result. It's a living organism, it's a living artwork, right? It's not like you're painting a picture and then you painted it and then you preserve it and it's gonna look like that for the rest of your and its life. Plants keep changing, but that is what is interesting with this hobby, right? That's why, despite having similar plants, my apartment always looks different depending on what plant is currently thriving, which plant is currently throwing a hissy fit, what season is it. Some plants like the cooler season, some plants like the warmer season more, and so on. So it is constantly interesting, there's constantly change, but that also means constant work. This one is like the poster child of enjoying the journey, right? Because it is all about their journey over the first couple of months, seeing the plant grow extremely rapid, not knowing how large the leaves are going to be this season, and so on. And then saying goodbye to it over the winter months. Had to include this. I think it's looking fantastic, and it's a definite feature on this wall now, right? So really happy with this. Alrighty, for the next plant I need to go up to the attic, but it's kind of super hot there and quite narrow, so let me bring the plants down instead of bringing you up. One moment please. Maybe you remember a video from a couple of months ago where I looked at my pot of crazy rubbish. This one, it is a pot of crystallinum seedlings, and these are all seeds that I pollinated, germinated, and then grew. And I've got a full video on the journey of this plant. Anyway, about once a year or so, that pot gets too overgrown because there's so many seedlings in there. So I separate out the large ones, and I've done that just a couple of months ago. And I put all of the ones that are separated out in this box, put it in my attic, and forgot about it, apart from obviously like weekly watering. The idea was to grow them all out nicely, and then I want to do a bit of a scavenger hunt so people that live nearby can win them. I explained the concept more in that initial video, but enough background story. What I wanted to show you is that these have all grown quite nicely. Oh no, they're all going to be so intertwined, huh? Let's see if they all fit in here. They've all grown quite nicely. It is actually a good idea to take them out and give them some thorough watering. Look at that. I grew a Alocasia Jacqueline in here. You're mine now. It's because I like to repurpose my medium, huh? Oh, look at this one. Oh my god, this also has a this also has a Jacqueline in here. Well, it's also growing some nice leaves. Must have not separated out all the corms, huh? Actually, I don't think I need to water this. This is looking pretty good. This one again is growing exactly. Honestly, I was so, look at this, you can really see it here. I was so unsuccessful in growing a, oh no. Oh no! I was so unsuccessful in growing Alocasia Jacqueline, like the original mother plant, and I have another one popping out of my caladium out there, so I seem to be much better at growing it by accident than growing it deliberately. So overall, just really happy with those because, you know, when I separated them out, they didn't all have the best root system. I was quite harsh in ripping them out at times as well. And I have done so little for them, right? They're just up in my attic. It is very hot in the attic at the moment. Actually too hot technically for their liking, but what can I do, you know? So it doesn't really take up any valuable space for me because I wouldn't really do anything else with the attic anyway. This will become my rescue section over winter. Some of the plants that can't handle the outdoors year round will have to go up into the attic. But at the moment, these are the only plants there. I put a little lid on top of the box and set and forget, and I don't even take them out to water. When I go and water, I just take a watering can and I just water the moss, and it kind of then the excess water drains into the box, and they're all sitting in the box, so they can also bottom water a little bit. So from a effort perspective, it is just absolutely no effort, and they all seem to be thriving. So I think very soon I'll be in a position to go ahead with that what did I want to call it, like scavenger hunt, right, where I hide these plants and then the first person to go to that spot and find them gets to keep them. Anyway, let's move on. And I think it is time to head outdoors because, well, it is the middle of summer, so I am actually experiencing the best growth outdoors at the moment. So let's go there. Let's start in the greenhouse. Alrighty, this one, probably clear to see why I love this so much. It's my Amydrium medium. There are currently 4 plants on here. You can see shoot number 1, shoot number 2, shoot number 3, and shoot number 4 is just here. So really nice and lush. It started off as 2, but I cut both and then they reshot in 2 spots, so doubling the impact. So very happy with that. It survived in my garden or my greenhouse all winter long as well, but didn't really thrive over winter. Now that summer's in full swing, this plant is absolutely loving it. So beautiful. Look at that texture. It's just looking really nice and lush. Absolutely stunning. I've heard a lot of people say that they've had lots of runners with this plant, so the plant just wants to run away rather than actually grow leaves. I just cut off the runners and let the plant reshoot, and obviously really highlight high humidity and never letting it dry out also seems to work. I think Amydriums are known for runners even if you grow them in really good conditions. I don't think you can fully avoid them. Next up, and yes, we're adding a second Alocasia to this list. What is happening with me? Alocasia gagaena. This has been in my greenhouse all season long as well, and it was actually kind of nothing left at the beginning of spring. What I really love about this plant is the variegation. Now the variegation, especially if it's really yellow, it often starts to eventually kind of just get a few fungal issues, specifically if there's lots of water on it sitting from the misting. And then it gets really hot. We had a 40-degree hot day the other day, and that caused these 2 spots. But in general, I try and give it as much airflow as possible to ensure there's no water sitting on them. But what I really like about this plant is that when the leaves first come out, I hope you can see this here, the leaf actually disappears fully green, and then over time you start seeing the variegation coming in. So this one was the second latest one. You can see the variegation, but it is not as yellow as the older ones just yet. So yeah, I like how you never know what you're going to get with this plant, but so far she's also never disappointed and has always shown variegation. So maybe that's why I'm not super mad at her at all. Yeah, I mean, happy days. And she's even propagating herself down here. There's 3 little pups without me doing anything. So I think in winter I'll pop her out upstairs in my attic actually. I think she's going to have the best time over there, and then in spring I'll repot it and separate out the babies. Holy moly, it is so warm here today. Oof, I'm a sweaty mess already. This is my Anthurium Forgetii Magnificum hybrid, and currently my favorite Anthurium, I believe. This one was the last indoor leaf, and then all of the leaves you see at the front over here have grown in the greenhouse. This plant overwinters inside, and then at the beginning of spring I put it back outside, and it's growing these beautiful leaves. Look at it, it almost looks like a bowl from the side, right, with this beautiful shape, the closed sinus. I love how dark the leaves are when they're mature. When they are still inflating, they're a little bit more coppery, and when they're really juvenile, almost red. So really love this plant, but we need to hurry up. I'm getting so sweaty. Done in there. Let's move on to this plant. Let me see if I can move this. Oh my god. I'm probably going to be out of frame now, no? I don't think I need to say much about this plant. I think the reason why I'm including this is quite obvious. It is absolutely ginormous. That's it. Thank you. I think the true scale of it doesn't come across when it's on the ground. I think when I pick it up, it's much clearer. It's also pushing out this beautiful new leaf over here. It's going to be ginormous. Such an easy grower. It is in a pot, so I am stunting its growth. It could actually get even larger. But this plant can take a whole lot of direct sun, which is good because we're getting a lot of sun in the summer months. It can also survive out here all year long. It's not growing as fast, it's not growing as big, and definitely all the leaves are dying off in winter, but it makes a really quick recovery in spring and then just adds so much volume to my garden. I mean, that one plant in itself is just a huge statement piece, and that's usually really my preference. I like to have statement pieces. I don't want to just have volume of plants. I think it is really important that each plant is in itself really nice and adds something to the collection, kind of rather than just having a shelf full of 1,000 plants with like one leaf each. I much prefer this. Just the ease of growing as well is just making it a really good candidate, at least the ease of growing over here in Sydney. And I think a lot of people like to grow this plant as a house plant, but you will never get the full potential out of this plant indoors unless you have a lot of sun, right? I mean, yeah, you can have a lot of sun indoors, but most people don't. And of course I wanted to include at least one like really big plant, right? I mean, that's kind of my thing. Lastly, we've got my Philodendron martianum. It has actually been one of my first plants I've ever purchased. I've had this plant for such a long time now. Slow grower for sure. I used to have it on a pole, but it kind of just went off the pole, and then I just kind of gave up on it as well. But it has now been growing outdoors, and I do think it was outdoors all year as well. Don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened. And you can really see that these were the indoor leaves back in the days, and now the outdoor leaves out here are just so much bigger. I just love the texture of this plant. No, not the texture, I just love the sculptural element of this plant. I love how it grows, and I obviously love the thick petioles over here. It's also called Fat Boy for the really thick fat petioles. I just think it's a little bit unique and a little bit different to most of the other philodendron that I grow. And again, it's having a really easy time out here. It's just sitting there actually in full sun at the moment, so it can take a lot of sun, but it can also take the cooler months over here in Sydney. Sorry, had to switch sides because you guys keep overheating on the other side. Not that you won't overheat over here, but at least you're not in the full sun. But I'm also going to keep it short because I think I'm about to overheat. Anyway, what I was saying is that this plant just tolerates all of the conditions out here. It's super easy going and really rewarding to grow. A much more rewarding growth journey out here. This is the best it looked in 5 years of growing this plant. So I'm really, really happy with that. In hindsight, would I give this a moss pole again? No, I would just let it do its own thing. But at least the moss pole is somewhat giving me like one display site, at least. I don't know. I just really like this plant. I think it looks really cool and it's a little bit different. And that then also concludes the list. I think that was 10, if I count correctly. I think so. Also, shout out to the aroid wall behind me. But those were 10 plants that I think are looking absolutely amazing at the moment. Making plants look really nice, getting the best out of those plants, appreciating their beauty, appreciating the joy of the journey of growing it is really what excites me about this hobby. So I hope this video was an exciting video for you as well. It wasn't super informative, but if you're after the informative stuff, it's always linked in the description, and I have plenty of playlists with all of my care tips. So please check those ones out. Give the video a thumbs up, leave a nice comment, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Bye!